Welcome back to the channel, welcome back Explorers, my name's Jack and today we are doing some more NASCAR. Not so much NASCAR racing but more the learning of NASCAR. It's the evolution of stock car to race car, 7 generations of NASCAR race cars explained. That's a long title, my lord. Basically I want to know where they came from and I want to know where they're up to now, and this is the most recent video I could find and it's from NASCAR Films, so this is definitely going to get demonetized. So if you are new around here and you like what you see, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment, let me know who your favourite NASCAR racer of all time was, let me know if you follow anyone now. If you're old around here, welcome back Explorers, same to you, let me know who you're following this season. This is more a learning video for me, so I'm not going to be jumping around or being like I don't do that anyway, let's be honest, but it's more I'm going to be sat here learning, and anytime I genuinely have a question that I want to pose to the audience, I'll pause and talk. But other than that, nice chilled one. As I said before, if you are new around here and you like what you see, hit the like, hit the comment, hit the subscribe. It's free. It lets YouTube know that I'm doing something that you like, boosts me up in the algorithm, gets me views, you know, all the good stuff. Let's be honest. If you're around here, welcome back Explorers. Let's have a nice chilled one today, and without further ado, let's get into it, shall we?
When you look at the original stock cars, they really were cars that they just took off the showroom, or probably came out of somebody's driveway or a junkyard and went straight to the racetrack.
The country's top drivers ready their cars for the 160 miles of beach and bumpy roads.
Under the skin of a stock car lies a vast evolution of how you get there.
I guess it's trial by
They are
error,
incredible
you might call it.
machines.
You did all you could to go to the limit.
It's a slip back into the future looking to the present.
The next gen car is the first real race car.
You have to change. Change is inevitable.
So we threw away everything that we'd done for 70 years and said, let's just start all over again.
What an intro.
NASCAR, by definition, is the National Association for Stock Car Automobile Racing. And in the early days...
Why is it being narrated by an Englishman? I'm an Englishman. It's an American sport. Could they not have...
That's exactly what the stars of the sport competed with. A car bought from the dealership, driven down to the local racetrack, and raced. A
Gen
stock
1.
In the original
48 to
days, they were
66.
stock cars that drivers would bring to the racetrack and race in, then drive them back home.
Taping up headlights, driving to a
Makes
track
sense.
on a Saturday night, bring that car home after the race is over, and drive it all week.
Started out as completely stock. Take your muffler off and the hubcaps off. That was what you did.
Oh, generation one was, hey, we got these cars, let's find a way to have a race.
We used to go to the races and
How
we didn't
far?
have enough cars for the field. They'd go down and rent a couple, put a number on them and go race. I mean, that's how stock they were.
We've all seen photos of guys driving around with leather helmets and t-shirts and all of that.
There was a time in NASCAR it was recommended that you wear a helmet.
Tim Flock had a monkey he carried in his car in the early days. That was
What?
a true story.
Block led all qualifiers with a speed of 130 miles per hour. Not bad for a stock car that hasn't been souped up.
I look back, remembering going to Baltimore and picking up what they called a body in white. Was
You know what's crazy? How racing, even as children, it's not ingrained into you that, being fast is a good thing. But when you're young, even when you're young, before you even knew what cars were, before you even knew what racing was, racing against your friends, it's a weird thing, isn't it, that it goes from running against your friends to going 200 miles an hour against your friends.
actual stock car. Going to your dealership, buying the fenders and hoods and going there beating them out, and that was a real stock car when you started with that.
40 laps of this punishment will tear the engine out of any car. These drivers will stand on the throttle until something gives way.
You had to really pace yourself not to overrun the thing to break something. If you don't finish, you ain't gonna win.
The new Daytona International Speedway is designed for cars not yet built. cars that cannot be built until man has learned the limits of today's car.
67 to 1980.
NASCAR and stock car racing was no longer in its infancy. The cars became bigger, faster, and the engine builders ruled the racetracks.
They spent every moment the year round getting ready and keeping ready.
This is when horsepower
I think a lot of the
took over.
success that Richard Petty had and the Wood brothers was just preparedness, their attention to the car.
Now they've raced Generation 1 and they're like, okay, how do we move the sport forward? The sport's starting to grow. We got to have a car that can support it.
They were big, heavy,
Very
strong
smart.
cars.
Think of Hemis, you think of big blocks. I mean, it was basically all about power.
So now
Horsepower
we've
took
gone
over.
from a stock car to saying, okay, now we're going to build components. That was a major change that teams had to really adapt to. You go back and look at the crew chiefs in that generation, a lot of them were engine builders.
You start making the valves larger and more stroke, boring it out, high-performance camshafts and multiple carburetors and all that.
The Wood Brothers crew anxiously awaiting his approach. This will be more than a routine stop.
All of a sudden, things are going faster, cars are driving better, and interest level is going up.
Richard Petty.
Who would have known? Actually putting time and effort into designing things, chaps, and the aerodynamics of your cars. Who would have known?
He collected $17,000 and another super speedway win.
17 grand.
For the king of the road.
Big money.
Seeing these cars, you know, remembering David Pearson and Richard Petty, Bobby Allison, Darrell Waltrip, I remember
I've
well.
heard of
You know, obviously a lot of cool paint schemes back in that day. I think of the Richard Petty's, you know,
those
Wood
cars
Brothers, you know,
are
those are the two that come
gorgeous.
across my mind, the first and foremost.
Look what Plymouth's up to now. They just captured a road runner.
Horsepower has always been a part of racing, right? Most people were working on making more horsepower than they were making the car drive better.
While horsepower was king in Generation 2, a new stock car was coming that would tumble the king from his perch. A new wheelbase size and an emphasis on aerodynamics was a
81 to
paradigm shift for the
91.
drivers and their
91,
teams as they
baby!
entered Generation 3.
I started racing in 1965 in the dirt and late model. And as a driver, I seen the sport changing. I seen team owners coming in like Warner Hodgson, Harry Renier. I can go on and on. All this money started coming into the sport, but I could see the change coming in the late 70s.
You hop up into Gen 3, and that's when cars were really starting to turn into real race cars.
You know, you think about every step along the way, cars get refined, defined.
That's when we cut the cars down from 115 to 110-inch wheelbase, went to a complete different body style. That was a big change for the sports because they had always been the big, bulky cars.
I've been to those dealerships and gotten those body panels, taken them apart, bolt them on, weld them together.
It's incredible.
You know, make still
It's
a stock-looking
incredible that
car,
they were
but yeah,
so-
you've really got
It's truly incredible to know that these guys were so willing to adapt and try new things just for the love of the sport, and in that weird way for that, how fast can I go? You know, I love this. This is true, just engineering, great feats of engineering.
a race car, you know, under that body.
You saw a lot of the components change to aftermarket components or specialty built components. Aerodynamics is really starting to come into play. You can see that with the aero rear windows as the guys are trying to get the cars to go faster at Daytonas and Talladegas. Significantly different car, a truly built car.
Particularly here, Dale Earnhardt is right behind him.
They all came up, we went, formed a partnership, and the rest of it was history. We just hit it off
The
right.
legend.
We went to the race, we knew we were going to win.
A little bit coming off of that turn. Oh, touch and around, but I go.
That black number 3, you know, like was the paint
That is
scheme
a
of that.
clean
That's
scheme.
Earnhardt. That's the man. That's the guy everybody wants to beat. The fans boo the hell out of him, and the fans.
It's a
cheer
shame,
him.
isn't it?
He was the guy. And that paint
Such a
scheme
shame.
is just iconic. It fit his persona too.
To see that car, when it pulled in, it had a statement made before it ever even cranked up. If you go to paint schemes and designs, that would probably go back to one of my more favorite, but the confetti and champagne all over it is the best.
As the cars became even faster,
It's
the
very
risks
pretty, but
increased
when it's covered in the
exponentially.
confetti.
But so did the safety innovations for the drivers.
92 to
The Gen 4
2006.
car obviously was Jeff Gordon, Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt Sr., a lot of energy around those guys racing in that period of time, and unfortunately we lost Dale Sr. And that's what really pushed our industry to get the cars safer.
It's a shame that it took Dale Sr. losing his life for it to really be pushed for cars to become more safe. Terrible, isn't it?
Safer.
The changes that's happened since we lost Dale.
Mm.
I think as horrible as that was, and we'll never ever get over it, a lot of safety came out of that. They said if it can happen to Dale Earnhardt, it can happen to anyone.
Sometimes it takes a tragedy to create change.
That's insane.
Change that benefits the future of stock car racing.
We saw the Hans systems, we see the different head and neck restraint systems that the
I was
drivers
gonna
started
say,
to wear.
We started building the cars different harnesses, different helmets, different seats, different seat belts, safer walls at the racetrack. Has
Hey,
been
to
a
be
tremendous
honest,
hit.
mistakes are where
Every
you
time
learn,
we
aren't
had
they?
that, NASCAR would look at
So-
the car and say, okay, we need to put another roll bar here, we need to do something here.
You see?
They'd come back with a deal and say, okay, it's going to be better if we do it this way.
One thing that really stands out in my mind was the roof flaps.
The roof flaps are
If you see
insane.
the car spinning and
It's
getting ready
insane
to
that
go
stops them
airborne and the
taking off.
flaps come open and settle it back down on the ground. That was a great
Incredible.
idea that they came up with.
Incredible.
So much safety has came out since 2001.
A little
We're
like
racing, it's a
6-inch
dangerous
flap of
sport.
metal
Anything
stops your
can
car
happen.
going airborne.
There was an evolution going on.
Incredible.
Safety evolution. And it got to the point where it became a revolution, really. There were so many things changing so quickly.
Our effort there is to make the sport as safe as we can make it. It's always going to be a dangerous sport. It's the nature of motorsports. And we'll never get to 100%. But if we're in that last 2% between 98 and we can take a thousandth of a step every year, that's what the goal is.
Whoa, guys, whoa. Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I have never seen anything like that in my life.
It's amazing the impacts the drivers can have. You can take a 20G hit right now and stand up and walk away.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at that.
Honestly, they're probably more apt to put their nose maybe where it doesn't belong due to the fact that they know they can get away with it.
How?
At the center of it was
How do you
always
hit a
how do we
wall at
make
that
racing
speed?
better? That has pushed every generation of car. How do we make them safer and at the same time have better races?
Incredible. That's incredible. That goes to show
will be used in 16 races
the
this
feat of
year.
engineering that
There's
goes
talk
into
that
the
maybe it will
safety
be used in every
designs.
race next NASCAR season.
The car of tomorrow ushered in the era of the spec car, which created new challenges for the drivers, teams, and NASCAR.
Gen 5, that car, it was dubbed the COT, right?
And that was probably my least favorite.
Probably didn't necessarily work out exactly how we wanted it to.
Best thing they did was moved it on.
Jeff, one of the things that I really
They do
don't
not
like about the
seem
car is the rear
happy.
wing. And the main reason I don't like it is because I don't know anything about it.
I was going to say, I'm guessing a lot of die-hard fans and true fans of the sport had an issue with this generation. And it lasted for 7 years. Oh,
I'm
Lord.
saying we did it right. But the Gen 5 kind of teed us up knowledge-wise for the next gen. That was a more standard
Again,
dimension
you've got to make
chassis
mistakes to
underneath
learn,
the car.
right?
Even for a few races, we put wings on the back instead of spoilers.
And what they do is they make side force.
Fans didn't like that, so we went back to spoilers pretty quick.
People didn't really identify with what the car was really doing. And to NASCAR's defense,
I get it.
what it did do is it made the cockpit and the car significantly safer for the drivers. As we went through time, that car, it evolved and it got better and better through the 2010 range.
Gen 6.
To win in this generation,
I'm guessing
meant
these are the
spending
modern
money.
generations now,
Lots of it.
2023.
Every component became custom made
Or is there
in
a
an
new
effort
one?
to gain even the slightest edge on the competition.
Gen 6 was great. That was an awesome race car. And this is when you started to see the OEMs really start to have a big presence again in the queuing and the styling queuing of the car. The OEMs wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to be part in the development.
That's when we could really play with the aerodynamics. So many changes went on in NASCAR with the different aero packages. The engines changed somewhat. And Gen 6 put on a great show, and the fans really liked it.
So now everybody's getting smarter. And through the generation of cars, that's what we've seen, is that we've gone from a crew chief, fabricators, guys working really long hours in the shop, making parts, buying parts, putting race cars together, to, okay, we're going to engineer this thing from the ground up. And every piece of the race car is going to be made better. Major transition.
Any rule has a counter that you can try to find an advantage. Every template has an area outside of the templates. There's just always opportunity. So it's how much are you willing to invest your time to understand if the juice is worth the squeeze in a specific area to try to find an advantage. I think that the guys that are willing to, one, risk it to see if they can stay out of trouble or get in trouble, or to push the envelope to advanced technology, those are the guys and the gals that are going to continue to push our sport forward, and they're going to be the ones who win races.
It's a cat and mouse game between NASCAR and the mechanic, you know, that the officials are always trying to make sure you're on the level, you know. You did all you could to go to the limit.
And that still goes on today. It's more creative today, and it's not outside the rule book.
So the next gen car
how
is
far
a
can we
response
push it
to, okay, this has gotten
without going too far.
And an upper control arm shouldn't cost $3,800, because at the end of the day, it doesn't make it better for the race fan. It's an arms race across every part and piece of the car. But that all was because of the recognition that every little thing matters.
The Generation 6 stock car barely resembled its long-ago predecessor. Almost every component was now designed and manufactured by the teams themselves. It had become an unwinnable arms race, and NASCAR recognized that needed to change.
Aha!
The next gen car didn't happen overnight. It took 70 plus years and 7 generations of cars to get to where we are today.
There's such a big change in this car in any of the past gen cars.
Now with the Gen 7 car, I think the OEMs, their involvement at a super high level, along with partnership with NASCAR and all of the teams, have decided that we need to make the car look more like a real production car. And if you look at a Camaro and you look at our race car Camaro, they look very, very similar. And I think that that's important, because I think it's cool for the fans to be able to actually go to the car lot, look at the car, touch it, feel it, buy
it makes it more accessible. Exactly.
Just like the old adage, right? If you go out and win on Sunday, you sell on Monday.
It's supposed to be your car that anyone can drive.
Larger, the tires are more lower profile.
Single lug nut.
Axle, no transmission.
Very small.
The whole front end, it's got rack and pinion on the front of the car. Shocks are completely different.
It's got a sequential shifter, the dual exhaust as opposed to the single side exhaust. So there's a lot of things that are really new and unique just on the surface. If you start to dig in a little bit deeper than that, you see the independent rear suspension, you see a transaxle. There's so much more that starts to get a little bit more like what you would see in a production car that I think is a huge draw right now.
And this is good old-fashioned short track racing.
A team that couldn't be competitive in the past now can. This is a clean sheet of paper. How do we take this car that the guy I'm racing with also has access to buy and make it better than him? And how do I drive it better? It's really back to that.
Good, that's how it should be.
Put up cones and said it's a racetrack, I would have let it. I didn't care what kind, whether it's dirt, big, little, I just let it drive a race car.
NASCAR and others are already imagining the future generations. Who knows what they'll come up with?
You're definitely going to have some alternative power sources, hybrid, solar powered, who knows?
I think in the future that all of the stock car
I can imagine a hybrid coming.
Electric.
I think that you'll
Or
see
electric.
fans, people at home interact with drivers on track. I think they'll be in a simulation and actually drive
Electric
the race
is,
against
I know a
the
big
real
thing
cars.
of NASCAR is the sound.
stock car going to look like
So electric could be
50 years? I wonder what it's going to look like in 10 years from now.
You know, it'll probably be racing to the moon and back. You know, that's so far out there. You know, we don't even know what's going to happen next year.
You can never put the genie back in the bottle. Change is inevitable.
The one thing I've learned in this sport, if you give the project to the garage area and say, go figure it out, that once they get it in their hands, they're going to make it work right.
Exactly. Look at the Gen 6 to Gen 7. There's like a 2-year difference. And the
what we
difference in
have
vehicle
today
is
so much
incredible.
different than anything that we've ever raced in NASCAR.
The journey of the NASCAR race car is a perfect example of the vision expertise, and ingenuity that makes this sport great. The evolution is constant, and the never-ending quest for creativity and innovation will drive NASCAR's future.
Incredible. That was incredible. That was really fun to see. You know why? Because it does go to show. I like that these Gen 7 cars have gone back to the old adage of, this is my car, I want to race my car against your car. And I like that they've gone back to that, but I really also appreciate that with every generation, even the old timers, the old racers have embraced the changes, embraced the safety measures, embraced the new engine layouts, the new chassis, the new wheel, like the different spacing, everything. I like that they're happy to evolve with the sport because they know that it's making it better. This was very, very interesting to watch. I'm glad I watched it. If you enjoyed watching it also, leave a comment, leave a like. Let me know what to watch next. Subscribe if you haven't. Have a great day. Be well. Bye bye.